I was left to my own devices. Many days fell away with nothing to show, and the walls kept tumbling down in the city that we love. Grey clouds roll over the hills, bringing darkness from above. But if you close your eyes, does it almost feel like nothing changed at all? And if you close your eyes, does it almost feel like you've been here before? How am I gonna be an optimist about this? How am I gonna be an optimist about this? We were caught up and lost in all of our voices, in your pose as the dust settles around us, and the walls kept tumbling down in the city that we love. Grey clouds roll over the hills, bringing darkness from above. But if you close your eyes, does it almost feel like nothing changed at all? And if you close your eyes, does it almost feel like you've been here before? How am I gonna be an optimist about this? How am I gonna be an optimist about this? Oh, where do we begin? The rubble of our sins. Oh, where do we begin? The rubble of our sins. And the walls came tumbling down in the city that we love. Grey clouds roll over the hills, bringing darkness from above. Close your eyes. Does it almost feel like nothing changed at all? And if you close your eyes, does it almost feel like you've been here before? How am I gonna be an optimist about this? How am I gonna be an optimist about this? If you close your eyes, does it almost feel like nothing changed at all?
Well, hello and welcome to a Thursday night at Restore UK Live. Restore UK going out to the Facebook channel, that's Restore UK on Facebook, to the British Unionist People's Voice on Facebook, to the Restore UK channel on YouTube, and also to Restore UK on Twitter. Now, we decided to come along this evening because of the pace at which things are happening here in our country, and with reference to our constitutional position, that's Northern Ireland's constitutional position within the United Kingdom. And we wanted to come on and to put on record a few things that has happened today, and to talk, and we're just going to be here for a brief time in order to talk about that. Seemingly, there are some people that just don't get what a border is. There are some people that don't understand what it is that the entire thrust against the protocol has been about. There are some people that just don't get what it means to be separated from the United Kingdom. And we're here to literally to try to lay out bare in a way that the layman can understand that well, we can lay things out and you can make up your own mind as to what it is that's happening in Northern Ireland. And also, what we're going to do this evening is that we never thought it would come to this, but we're going to point some fingers and we're going to ask these people directly. And we're going to come back and we're going to cut this video, this live stream, into small pieces, in order that what we can do is that we can pass this out, seeking answers from people that are agreeing to things that, number one, that they do not have the authority to agree for and on behalf of the people of Northern Ireland. Yes, that some people may have got elected in the not too distant past there, with reference to the assembly elections, and some people are elected and they're in Westminster right now. But the reality is that not one British unionist, if they understand without smoke and mirrors, not one British unionist in Northern Ireland, not one British unionist would give their authority to be separated permanently from the United Kingdom, albeit in a way that is, I'm going to say that it's less than it was actually last week. But however, we're here to actually point out a few things and ask, what is it that has changed? You call this channel Restore UK. We're just going to pop up onto the corner of the screen there, our little badge. If you just bear with me for a second, we had missed that out. But you call this channel Restore UK. Now, what does Restore UK mean? Well, it means that I can remember back to the rallies for the union in December of 2019. I can remember an Ulster Hall rally for the union. And, one of the biggest flags that has ever flew, one of the biggest union flags that has ever flew right across the UK. Well, on the 6th of December in 2019, that flag was flown upside down. And that flag, it was flown upside down because the union, it was in peril. And that symbolizes, if you fly your Union Jack upside down, that the union is in great peril and there's danger ahead. And that was the reason why that was replicated on the 6th of December in 2019, because back just 100 years before, just a few days off the date, that the 6th of December in 2019, on the 12th of December, back in, let me get this right, in 1918, from what I understand, Carson Gellard in the Ulster Hall, and he also flew a huge Union Jack. And what was replicated on the 6th of December in 2019 was that flag flying upside down to indicate once again that the union was in danger. It was in great peril. And today in 2022, well, here we are, British unionists having won the Brexit referendum. Those of us that would have voted for the Brexit, voted in the right way to leave the EU. Well, here we are, having our democracy removed, having been separated from the rest of the United Kingdom. England, Scotland and Wales is a place apart right now from Northern Ireland, and having been really declared second-class citizens. But the real question is what are our politicians, those that we would have elected, what are they prepared to do about it? Well, we're getting a clear sight of what it is that they're prepared to do about it. And, I can see, before we move on, and before that we show some legal opinion on this screen, but I can see a climb down from the DUP's position from before the Assembly elections, whenever Jeffrey Donaldson, from his own words, from his own mouth, he would have said that the protocol must go, that the democratic right of the people of Northern Ireland, it must be respected. And there's no two ways of looking at those both statements. That means that the protocol has to go. That also means that the democratic right of the people of Northern Ireland, it must be respected. Now, I'm going to ask, before that we move on, and there's quite a few people from right across the platforms. As I say, Restore UK on Facebook, British Unionist People's Voice on Facebook, the Restore channel on YouTube, and Restore on Twitter. And from there, people in our background team, they will be sharing this across the platforms. The numbers on the software here is very high from across the entire platforms, but I would like for each and every one to tag people into the live chat, to, if you can give us a like, give us a love, give us a share. And that way, if you're new to this channel, well, what we can do is that we can get to invite you here in the very, very near future. So what we're going to do is that we're just going to start off by getting straight into things. We're not going to be here for long. All we are here for is to put on record and to document some things and to point out what some people are saying and what some people have been, I'm going to say, have been put in place to persuade you and to persuade I for a climb down position for and on behalf of the DUP. Now, that's the charges that I'm levelling at the DUP right now. Now, some within the DUP hierarchy might think that those are unfair charges. But look, I've been dealing with some DUP people, several of them, by the way, and that's to the people that I am dealing with. I'm not telling people who in the DUP that it is we are working for or working with, talking to, who it is that's giving us information. But the reality is that the DUP are prepared, and wait for it, they are prepared to do a deal, seemingly, that would separate you from the United Kingdom, that would place a permanent border in the North Channel. And they would do so in a way that what they're about to try to, I'm going to say, swindle, is that they have the promise that they can then go back and they can rehash things. They can, use this as a staging post, and they can go back again and they can win some more ground. Now, let's just start by putting some legal opinion up, and let's talk about the legal opinion that is right in front of us. And I'm going to say, whenever this was sent to a DUP guy today, I was told, whenever this legal opinion was shown, that I was told, well, there you can get plenty of legal opinion. Legal opinion doesn't have to be right, and it's different from the legal opinion that we've got. So really, effectively, what you can actually be clear on right now, before that we show this, is that the DUP's position is that they have legal opinion contrary to the legal opinion that I am going to show on this screen. Now, that's what we were told. That's what we have in writing, and we won't be divulging anything unless that anything, should anything happen to Northern Ireland's place within the United Kingdom, should we find ourselves within the next, in the coming days, weeks, months, who knows, could take a year. It may be the promise on the never, never. There's nothing that really has been passed hands, or, they're talking about doing things, but yeah, there's nothing actually has been finalized yet. So anyway, should anything happen to Northern Ireland's place within the United Kingdom at any point in the future, and it links back to, what it is that we've been talking about, what it is that we've been warning about over the past number of months, if it links back to anything that we've talked about, well, we will actually show the people that we've been talking to, the people that we've been trying to persuade, the people that we've been feeding in legal opinion to, and well, it's seemingly that they are happy enough to move on. And I'm going to say right now is that what we have learned over the course of the past few days is that the DUP are actually, they're party to negotiating this actual deal. But there's one thing, just one thing, that none of them's talking about right now. So what's the title of this screen? The title of this screen is, if it looks like a border, if it has checks just like a border, then what's the answer, people? It is a border. It is a border. Should there be an internal border in the United Kingdom? That's a real question. Should British Unionists, who were part of the 17.4 plus million people who voted to leave the EU, should we accept that we have democracy delivered different from England, Scotland, and Wales? That's another question. Should we accept that we would be denied that democracy? Again, that's another real question. And what unionist leader that you would elect to serve and protect you, I may add, what unionist leader would agree to a border in the North Channel, checks on goods in Larne, in Belfast, and in Warrenpoint, but not on the border where it's meant to be? That's between Northern Ireland and Southern Ireland. What unionist politician would compromise in a way that compromise would equal I'm going to say future or near future non-existence of Northern Ireland's place within that United Kingdom. In fact, by extension, non-existence of that entire United Kingdom. Because why? Because that whenever this deal is done, Nicola Sturgeon is waiting. Nicola Sturgeon is waiting to go for it and to demand exactly the same as Northern Ireland has got. So this could be very, very reckless, what it is that we see happening before our very eyes. And let's understand why. Here we go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop up onto the screen. I'm going to pop up onto the screen some legal opinion directly from the case against the protocol. That was the case that started off in Belfast as an appeal, that went on to the appeal, then the or not the appeal, the judicial review, then the appeal. Got to excuse me. So it started off as a judicial review. It went on to an appeal, and then it has now been progressed to the Supreme Court. And this is the same argument from back in those days that has moved right across all three of those cases and still forms the basis today. And even on Monday, when this legislation comes in, this legal opinion that we're about to show here, it still forms the basis of the argument that will be seeking to go through into this Supreme Court. Let's hope that what it is that the DUP are about to do, let's hope that it doesn't actually scupper these Supreme Court cases that so many people has fought long and hard for to get to that court, in order that we can fight in a legal way to have our place fully restored within the United Kingdom. Restore UK. That's what this channel is all about, is restoring the United Kingdom, restoring Northern Ireland's place within the United Kingdom. What does it say here? Let's pop me off the screen before we show this legal opinion. And I want people to have a look at the badge in the background. You see, no Irish Sea border, restore UK, Northern Ireland is part of the United Kingdom. And that's what we expect. That's what we expect. We don't expect to have to compromise on our constitutional position within the United Kingdom by facilitating the EU's request and by placing a border on the sea at Larne, in Belfast, and in Warrenpoint. So here we go with some legal opinion. Just bear with me for a second. So I'm going to read over this here, and I'm going to draw your attention to, this was the same from the judicial review to the appeal court, and then to on to the Supreme Court with exactly the same argument. So this was the conclusion of the legal team, the barristers in one of the cases that was taking the case against the constitutional changing EU protocol, which started off in judicial review in Belfast, went on to an appeal. And, this was the conclusion of the barristers. And this conclusion still stands today. It is clear that even the British government's highest position in the customs union between Britain and Northern Ireland will remain with customs checks required, albeit self-declared checks. Now, I just want to stop there for a second, and I'm going to read over this, and then we're going to, break this down into layman's terms. So it is clear that even the British government's highest position is that customs union between Britain and Northern Ireland will remain, and customs checks will be required. Now, it goes on to say that albeit that those customs checks will be self-declared checks. Now, I'm just going to drop this down for a moment, and we're going to come back to it again, just to explain to people that, you see, what is being proposed right now, and what it seemingly is that the DUP are accepting. In fact, they're party to actually drafting, and what it is that Jamie Bryson would be persuading for, and we're going to get to that in a minute, for and on behalf of the DUP, by the way. I've nothing against Jamie Bryson, but something? My place in the United Kingdom is at stake. Your place in the United Kingdom is at stake. And I will be calling out anyone that threatens that place in the United Kingdom. And I'm going to go on and we will be talking about that just now. And we'll be saying to Jamie Bryson right now, and to anyone that knows Jamie Bryson, do you know, are you a chief salesperson for the DUP's climb down position? Are you a chief salesperson for a border in the North Channel? Are you a chief salesperson for the permanent lifting of a border from where it is right now between Northern Ireland and the Southern Ireland, and placing it in Larne, Belfast, and Warrenpoint? Is that what you're doing? And why are you doing that? Why are you doing that? Are you doing that on the instructions of the DUP? We'll get to what you wrote today. Let's now go on with explaining what it says in this legal opinion. You see, it says, and I'm going to go back to it, it says that it is clear that even the British government their highest position, that's what is an offer that aren't going to go any further, according to this legal opinion, is that the customs union between Britain and Northern Ireland will remain with customs checks required, albeit with self-declared checks. Such self-declared checks would still not be required for moving goods between Scotland and England and Wales. Now let's just stop there. You see, what is being proposed is that there's going to be customs checks in the sea, in the Irish Sea, no sea border, restore the UK. This was the thrust of the whole argument from the very start on behalf of British unionism, that we needed to get rid of that sea border, that there should be, the protocol has to go, Jeffrey Donaldson's words, that the democratic rights of the people of Northern Ireland must be respected. But it says here, and this is what's on offer right now, is that there's going to be red lanes for EU checks. And Poots has agreed on Nolan just a few weeks ago, unless that has changed. Edwin Poots has agreed to keep his Poots posts in place, that he would check the EU goods. In fact, his words were that we would have no problem in doing that. That is the moving of the border from between Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland and putting it on the sea border in Larne, in Belfast, and in Warrenpoint for slow learners. That constitutes a border. Then there's going to be green lanes. And what was it Liz Truss had said? Liz Truss had said that the British government would enforce checks in the Green Channel, that is for goods moving from England, Scotland, and Wales to Northern Ireland. Now we'll go back to this legal opinion again, and we're going to look at it. And we're going to say it is clear that even the British government's highest position is that there will be a customs union between Britain and Northern Ireland. All of a sudden, it has become Great Britain, not the United Kingdom, and we all of a sudden are Northern Ireland. Now, I know that that's what it says on your passports, but the reality is that the United Kingdom is made up of 4 constituent parts. That is England, Scotland, and Wales, and Northern Ireland. And what I see that is an offer right now, what I see that the DUP are drafting right now, along with the British government, and what I've seen with the DUP hierarchy, someone in the Parliament today telling me that this legal opinion, well, he has other legal opinion, and my legal opinion could be wrong, and his legal opinion could be right. And what was he arguing against? I wonder, because he didn't elaborate. But you see, I think that what he's trying to do is that he's trying to protect the fact that the DUP are about to concede that Northern Ireland has now a new border, a border in Larne, in Belfast, and in Warrenpoint. What self-respecting unionist could ever accept that? Are we not here to fight for having the fight of our lives, to remain constitutionally aligned with the rest of the United Kingdom, to maintain the United Kingdom, to ensure that the United Kingdom could go on for another very, very long time? And you see, when I was talking to a colleague today, he says to me, John, whenever you're doing this evening, and I know that what you do is you do symbolic songs, but this, a guy that is very well respected, he said to me, there may be trouble ahead, whenever he began to read into the detail. And the trouble is this: on so many fronts will there be trouble if this is agreed to. And the main thrust of that trouble is that Nicola Sturgeon in Scotland will be demanding, it is eagerly awaiting some sort of settlement here in Northern Ireland, that she can demand the same. And that, my friends, we cannot get wrong. We cannot afford to get wrong. We cannot afford for people from within our community to be persuaded to lift the border from Killeen, from all around between Northern Ireland and Southern Ireland, and to have it transplanted, permanently fixated, and put at Larne, in Belfast, and in Warrenpoint. That is a huge, huge concern. Let's get back to this legal opinion. Let's read on. And if you're new to the screen right now, give us a like, give us a love, give us a share, so that we can invite you back to your channel again in the very, very near future. Because, you know, this, my friends, is the greatest constitutional crisis that Northern Ireland has ever had in all of its existence. And it looks like those that actually lead us, well, they're not actually looking at things in the right way. That they're prepared to compromise, and they're prepared to compromise Northern Ireland's place within the United Kingdom to near future non-existence. I'll say that again. They are prepared to compromise Northern Ireland's place within the United Kingdom to near future non-existence. And that's how serious that this is. And if these people want to take me up and people that I know up on that, well, you're welcome to come and do so. And you're welcome to make your arguments, not, say, well, we've got other legal opinion and we are pushing on. Now, he didn't quite say that to me today, but that's what he meant. And I have seen this from the DUP before. I've seen this at New Decade, New Deal, in where that they talked to us right up to the point where they knew that we couldn't accept what they were offering. And then what did they do? They don't respond to you anymore, and they push on, and they push through on a deal which has huge ramifications for Northern Ireland and the people of Northern Ireland in the future. I'm going to say respectfully that the Republican enemies of Northern Ireland, they must be laughing. They must be in amusement that our leaders are so weak, that our leaders are rolling over in such a way that our leaders are prepared to agree to anything, as long as they are okay. And if I'm wrong, come here and speak to me, speak to us, and tell us that we're wrong and show us why that we're wrong. You know, don't leak things through Jamie Bryson putting out how things unfolded and what time people met at and so on. Because whenever we read the detail of it, we aren't happy. We can't accept a border in the North Channel. No self-respecting unionist can accept that they form part of 17.4 plus million people who voted in the Brexit referendum, and their vote is being denied, that their democracy is being denied, and the consequences and the compromise that you are prepared to do is that we end up with a border in the North Channel separating Northern Ireland from England, Scotland, and Wales, and wait for it, quote unquote, on a permanent basis. They think that this is a staging post, according to what I'm reading. That's what they think that this is. Well, good luck with that if that's what you think that this is going to be. Let's get back to the legal opinion, and then we'll get on with some more. Give us a like again. There's more people that are joining these channels. If you're here, if you support what it is that we do, again, make yourself known right into the live chat. Give us a like, a love, or a share in order that we can get to invite you to Restore UK at some point in the future. Restore UK, that's what this channel means. No Irish Sea border. That's what we were fighting for. I don't know what they were fighting for, but we were fighting for our full place, a full restoration of Northern Ireland's place within the United Kingdom. And anything else is a compromise on your place, on your birthright, on your Britishness, and you are being separated from the rest of the United Kingdom in a way that, by extension, Nicola Sturgeon will demand exactly the same, which will put in place the breakup of the United Kingdom. The non-existence of the United Kingdom at some point in the very, very, very near future. That's how these leaders are actually leading you. And again, I say, with respect, if I'm wrong, come lay out your arguments here. Show us that we are wrong. And then, if we're wrong, we'll come back and we'll apologise. That's what we'll do. We're big enough to admit when we're wrong. But according to the legal advice that we have, we aren't wrong. Respectfully, you people are wrong. And no unionist can accept a border. Is there going to be a border? This is what it boils down to. Is there going to be a border between us and the United Kingdom? The England, Scotland, and Wales and Northern Ireland? If there's a border in that North Channel, if there's checks on goods in Larne and Belfast and in Warrenpoint, if there's checks, that constitutes a border. That is a border. That is a border between us and the rest of the United Kingdom. Then they talk about in what they're going to do, that they're getting the Act of the Union restored. Hold on, hang on. That is complete divergence if there's a border that exists there. And you can say what you want. You can write all the fine and legal words that you want. But if there's separation, if Northern Ireland has been treated differently from England, Scotland, and Wales, well, what we will be seeing is, are you ready for it? Here's a quote unquote for you. We will be seeing big bullshit. Lawful words actually baffles, and people won't be able to understand the jargon that is written. But the reality is, here's your test. You have one test. Is there a border remaining between you and England and Scotland and Wales? And if there is, you can't accept that. No unionist can accept that. That is a compromise on your place within the United Kingdom. Let's get back to the legal opinion. You see, they're talking about a trusted trader scheme. This was Liz Truss just a couple of weeks ago in the Parliament. Trusted trader scheme. And it says here that such self-declared checks would still not be required for moving goods between Scotland and England and Wales. I'll read that again. Such self-declared checks would not be required for moving goods between England, Scotland, and Wales. That's if there is a trusted trader scheme placed in a green channel at Larne, at Warrenpoint, and at Belfast, separating us from the rest of the United Kingdom. So during the course of negotiations, this proposed change is likely to be diluted rather than strengthened. Now, what we're going to see over the next few days, and we're going to come back to this legal opinion again, is that we're going to see that the Ramoners, those that want to fight the Brexit referendum all over again, even though that 17.4 plus million people won that Brexit referendum. What you're going to see in the next few days is you're going to see that there will be certain problems with this or that or the other, and then there'll be adjustments made for the other side, and then the British government will come to some sort of compromise on the compromise that is already there, and then that's going to be put out. And even if that we can win the hearts and minds, and that's what we're trying to do right now against this position, even if we manage to win the hearts and minds, and it's not impossible because we've done it before, and we'll talk about that in a moment or two, about how we done it before. But even if we win the hearts and minds, you see, what the DUP will do is they will sit back and they will say, well, we opposed it and we've opposed this and opposed that. And Jeffrey Donaldson said on those protocol rally stages that the protocol has to go and the democratic right has to be respected. But we couldn't do anything because the British government were going to push it through anyway. And if this ever manages to come to fruition, well, you see, that will be the DUP's mantra. And they will base that mantra on, well, you've already seen it. You've seen it with, the same-sex marriage that they opposed. You've seen it with the abortion that they opposed. You've seen it now again with the Irish Language Act, or as Ian Adamson, the late Ian Adamson would have says, the IRA Language Act. And why do we call it that? Why did he call it that? Why do I agree with that? Is because you see that Irish Language Act was formed part of the Irish Republican nation building strategy. What part of that does the DUP not understand? From Shana Walsh's own mouth, they are now, once they get that commissioner, they want to set about greening Northern Ireland street by street using this Irish language. And that's straight out of the mouths of these people. And what did they do? They took it to Westminster and they put it in over the heads of unionists. And the DUP are saying, well, look, we can't do anything about that. But let's remember, it was the DUP who recklessly, against all advice, against all the petitioning that we were making and others were making, the DUP pressed on And they thought that they knew better. Who remembers Mr. Poots? Mr. Poots saying that here's the Irish Language Commissioner, and what we're going to do is we're going to strip the teeth out of it until it has no powers. And my words at that time was, who remembers the Parades Commissioner? Can the judiciary turn the Parades Commission decision over? Can the police turn it over? Can unionism turn it over? Can anyone turn it over? Because a commissioner is an enforcer. And let's get to this Irish Sea border, because a border is a border is a border. If it looks like a border, if it checks like a border, if it checks goods like a border does, then what's the answer, people? It is a border. And why does that border have to be in the North Channel? Why do we have to compromise to that border whenever Republicans and nationalists, they won't compromise? They say, well, there's got to be no border between Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland. So why should we be the ones that have to compromise and take a border in the North Channel? That is totally unacceptable, and that should be unacceptable to every single British unionist living in Northern Ireland. So let's get back to the legal advice once more. So here we go. So during the course of negotiation, this proposed change is likely to be diluted rather than strengthened. And I've explained that is that you'll have all sorts of parties coming in and saying, we're not happy with this, not happy with that. There'll be adjustments made. And, who knows, it will be put out, or who knows, it's probably even got to that stage. But then it says this and the other proposals from the UK or EU do nothing to address the finding of Colton. Like, Colton was the man that sat as judgment in the judicial review in Belfast whenever the case was taken against this constitutional changing protocol. And what you're seeing here, that nothing says that this and other proposals from the UK or EU do nothing to address the finding of Colston J at 62. That must be paragraph 62 or annex 62 or whatever. I can't possibly tell until we look. But that there is an unequal footing as between the citizens of Great Britain and Northern Ireland under Article 6 of the Act of the Union, and does nothing to alter the appellant's position that the finding of Colton J at 114, that there has been implied repeal of Article 6 of the Act of Union 1800. Now, without getting into that, in what is being proposed right now, is that they are saying, according to what Jamie Bryson has written, that the Article 6 would have been dealt with in terms of that there's going to be full restoration, is what I slightly understand here, full restoration of the Act of the Union. But people, just listen here. You see the smile in my face when I'm saying this? Just listen. If there's a border in the North Channel, we'll go back to this legal advice again. If there's a border in the North Channel, that constitutes a place that we're being dealt differently from people in England, Scotland, and Wales. And what is the Article 6 of the Act of Union all about? Well, you see, that's about unfettered access, and that everybody should be treated equally in terms of the trade that passes between England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland. The United Kingdom, that is the Act of the Union. The Union of the United Kingdom. Well, you see, Ireland used to be part of that before that they became the Free State. And whenever they left, that act actually continued on. So you see, I don't know how that it is that they're fully restoring the Act of the Union whenever there's going to be a border, whenever there's going to be a green lane, whenever there's going to be a red lane for checking goods at Larne, at Belfast, and at Warrenpoint. And why? Why do we have to have that border? We should not have that border. And any unionist, so-called unionist, that wants to compromise away and forgo that border and place it in the North Channel, the Irish Sea, respectfully I say, have you got somebody else's head on? Have you lost your brain? This is a border between us and the United Kingdom. We should never, ever, ever accept that. So there's the legal advice, there's the legal opinion. And let's say that they do actually go for this. Let's say that they go for this. And let's say that the DUP actually sign up to this. Who knows? It may actually, render the Supreme Court hearings null and void, even although that we see We clearly see that there's going to be a border in the North Channel. You know, the DUP are acting in a completely reckless way. And yes, that I was told today, well, they're getting the legal opinion too, and they have constitutional lawyers with them. But the reality is, people, is that they can't get round the fact that a border remains in that North Channel. They can't get round the fact that there may be trouble ahead, there will be trouble ahead, in terms of that Nicola Sturgeon is going to demand exactly the same. This is going to cause great trouble within this United Kingdom. Let's move on. Let's talk about another issue that we see that's happening. So what are the changes prior to bullet points that were coming out a few weeks ago? Whenever that we did see sight of what it was that Liz Truss and Boris Johnson was going to be talking about. And again, the DUP using Jamie Bryson a day. We got this stuff a day ahead of Boris Johnson even talking about it. And 2 days ahead of Liz Truss actually putting it out in the Parliament. 2 days ahead. And it came from Jamie Bryson. And Jamie Bryson was saying, well, this is good, this is good, this is a nod toward this is a nod towards that. Well, respectfully, Jamie, again, I'm saying, and if anybody knows Jamie Bryson, give him this. Tell him to watch what I'm saying. A nod towards this is nothing, amounts to zero, absolutely not. Who remembers the position paper from the British government last year? Do you know, what was it they called it? The command paper, where they were promising this, that, or the other. Here we are. Another year has passed. The protocol is bedded in for another year. Jeffrey Donaldson only put the Stormont down before the election because the DUP were not electable under the circumstances. So here we are, in Jamie Bryson's words, having a nod and a nudge and a wink towards getting this, that, or the other, on the promise of absolutely nothing. And we're going to get into what it is that Jamie Bryson is writing today, and we're going to break that down too, because it has to be broke down. It literally has to be broke down so that people understands is that you need to understand what to trust, who to trust. You know, I'm in despair watching these people and seeing our constitutional position within the United Kingdom being compromised away into a place of near future non-existence. If we trust these people, that's where we are going to end up. And if you think I'm wrong, you come and you talk to me and you lay that out, and we'll look at it together and we can point out why that it is that you're wrong. Never mind 7 tests from the DUP. Never mind all those bullet points that Jamie Bryson could write. It boils down to this. Is there a border in the North Channel, in the Irish Sea, separating you from England, Scotland and Wales? And the reality is, under this deal that they're talking about, there is. There absolutely is. So let's move on. Let's now go and look at something else here. Now, bear with me for a second, because whilst we're going to move on and we're going to go into some of the things that were being talked about and something that Jamie Bryson has written, and I would say that has been instructed by the DUP, you know, we're going to get into it and we're going to break it down, and we're going to look at the points that I have been warning about, that we have been warning about at Restore UK for the last, 4, maybe 5 weeks. And we have a paper trail. And in fact, we've done streams about this after stream after stream. I'm not prepared to give my place in the United Kingdom up as simple as that, on the promise of a nod and a wink. And if you sign that dotted line there, you know, that what will happen is that, you know, Jeffrey Donaldson will go back and nominate into Stormont again and allow a speaker, and, you know, on the promise of nothing, on the promise of ministers, and I kid you not, ministers gaining powers that they may or may not enact in the future. And that's what's in that document. So let's remind ourselves of a few things on the run up to the protocol actually coming into being. Now, what I'm going to do here is I'm looking for right. I'm looking into my videos here, and I want to get something. Here we go. Right, we found the file that we're looking for, and we're going to play a little video, and we just want to let you see that what's happening now, what is being dressed up, is new money, is known as new money. In other words, this is what's being promoted this is what's on offer. This is what the Alliance Party had, with a few added concessions. The unionism, Alliance Party had it in their manifesto from before the Assembly elections. And why did those concessions come? Well, I believe that those concessions actually came as a result of us and Jim Allister actually pushing these people and doing exactly what we're doing now, by pointing out that you people are wrong, and you people do not have the authority of us to do what you're going to do. You people will be making the biggest mistake that any British unionist in any time in our history has ever made. And I'm going to say that the DUP has formed for doing this. And, I can't understand how that it is that somebody like Jamie Bryson is promoting the sellout, the climb down position of the DUP that actually began to happen whenever Jeffrey Donaldson stood in the Great Hall in Stormont the minute he got his MLAs elected, when he said at the start that the protocol must go, that the democratic right of the people must be respected. He got this call in Stormont, and what did he say? That we need to deal with the issues around the protocol. Then it came to the Parliament when Liz Truss had said that let me make this clear, this isn't about getting rid of the protocol, this is about dealing with the issues within the framework of the protocol. And Jeffrey Donaldson says, we welcome that, and this forms the basis of us going back into the Assembly again. So let's just show you this history before that we move on and we go into what Jamie Bryson is writing today.
That the protocol must go, and our democratic rights as British citizens should be fully restored. Thank you.
I want to be clear to the House that this is not about scrapping the protocol. Our aim is to deliver on the protocol's objectives.
The statement today is a welcome, if overdue, step. That is a significant move towards addressing the problems created by the protocol and getting power sharing based upon a cross-community consensus up and running again.
I have a question. Why is Jamie Bryson persuading for exactly this? Remember, let's take you back again. Let's take you back. Before the election, listen very carefully, people, and ask yourself the question, why is Jamie Bryson persuading for a man who would stand on protocol, anti-protocol rally stages, telling us that the protocol must go, telling us that the democratic right of the people should, quote unquote, be respected. And and then what did he do? I've showed you in this very video clip. It shows you how that he has moved his language from the protocol must go to the democratic right of the people must be respected, to that he welcomes the fact that Liz Truss said that this isn't about getting rid of the protocol. Who would trust a snake oil salesperson like Jeffrey Donaldson? And let me tell you something about Jeffrey Donaldson. I, over the years, have, approached Jeffrey Donaldson on many occasions with different things. And even though that these things were, really worthwhile dealing with and had huge merits, and, nothing that we have ever went to this man with has he ever produced anything on. And, you've only got to understand one thing, is that he doesn't have the best interests of unionism at heart. Let's play this and let's just show everyone what it is that he said when the protocol was in place. He said that we have to, because there's a border. Now, this is back to his original position. This is where he's went full circle and back to the position that he was in just after the protocol had been implemented. Who is Jeffrey Donaldson working for? Who is putting Jeffrey Donaldson's strings? Who is it is it Whitehall? Is he working for the so-called national interest? Is this the Whitehall line that Northern Ireland should be, as per Peter Brooks uttering in 1990, when Peter Brooks said that Britain has no selfish, strategic or economic interest in Northern Ireland? Is this the culmination of what it was that Peter Brooks said back then? And are we being hived off? Are we being annexed off? Are we being placed in a position, and we're going to get to more very shortly, are we being placed in a position in where that we are, well, we are orphans. We don't belong to anyone. We are hokey cokey. We are half in the UK. We are half in the EU. There are some fancy words telling us that the Act of the Union is going to be restored. But whilst there is a border in the North Channel, the Act of the Union cannot be restored under any circumstances, because that is divergence, that is the difference, that isn't unfettered whenever there's checks in red lanes and in green lanes. So let's get into what Jamie Bryson is talking about in a moment, and let's ask that question of Jamie Bryson. In fact, if anyone knows Jamie Bryson, and in fact I'm going to be sending somebody a message when we finish this, is that I want to talk to Jamie Bryson to see why is he persuading for this charlatan who is before the election telling us that the protocol must go, and after the election he's telling us that the protocol is it's staying. He's happy. He welcomes what Liz Truss has said. Let's play this again.
Continue to stand together, united in our determination that the protocol must go and our democratic rights as British citizens should be fully restored. Thank you.
I want to be clear to the House that this is not about scrapping the protocol. Our aim...
So the protocol must go, but this is not about scrapping the protocol. Our aim
is to deliver on the protocol's objectives.
So Liz Truss's aim is to deliver on the protocol's objectives. Remember what Jeffrey Donaldson swindled your vote with. You know, if there's one thing I detest, because I have seen this all of my life, I have been involved in politics from a very young age. And, you know, I have learned to see swindle, to, you know, years of betrayal has taught us to see betrayal even before that it comes. And I see something that isn't conducive to a prosperous future for the United Kingdom. And I see snake oil salespeople actually selling this position. And, you know, the protocol must go. Listen to what he says now.
The statement today is a welcome, if overdue, step. That is a significant move towards addressing the problems created by the protocol and getting power sharing based upon a cross-community consensus up and running again.
Our aim is to deliver on the protocol's objectives, that this is not about scrapping the protocol.
So there was just a recap on how that language was being moved from the DUP and how that he stood in the Great Hall. And we're not going to bore you with videos this evening, but we do have a documentary on how that the DUP have actually moved position over time from the protocol must go to standing in the Great Hall in Stormont saying that we need to deal with the issues around the protocol. And, you know, and now it seemingly is that he's now in negotiations, and he's negotiating an Irish Sea border permanently lifting the border between Northern Ireland and Ireland, creating an all-island economy, you know, unfettered access between Northern Ireland and Southern Ireland and the EU. Now, here's another question. Why is there unfettered access that way, but there's not unfettered access going the other way? Now, they can dress it up in whatever way that they want, but you believe me that if there is a green lane with a trusted trader scheme for hauliers to come from England, Scotland and Wales to Northern Ireland, again, I'm saying that if it looks like a border, if it has checks just like a border, and the answer surely is that it is a border. What was all this about from the start of whenever the protocol came into place? From the start of whenever that Theresa May was promoting, a backstop arrangement, when Arlene Foster of the DUP would have agreed to it, and Nigel Dodds would have agreed to it. What has ever changed from that DUP? What has ever changed? Now, I often say, who is putting wind in the DUP sails? Because they think, this is how it happens, is that, again, we have gleaned information in the past few days that, loyalists are being, they're being I'm going to say, kept up to speed. And, and community leaders are being kept up to speed and they don't keep us up to speed. Why? Because we will oppose this with every single thing that we have. And I'm going to say that every British unionist in this country, I'm appealing to people to get people to watch this video, tag people into the live chat. We will again make a documentary version of what it is that I am speaking about right now, and we're documenting this for the purpose of when this all goes pear-shaped, the persuaders for the DUP, well, they won't have a leg to stand on when this goes pear-shaped. The promises that they were made, the promises that they are persuading for, that amounted to zero, absolutely zilch, absolutely nothing. You know, the nods that they thought that they seen and they didn't see, respectfully, I say, unless that it is written in gold and handed to you and absolutely copper fastened, and it goes to it has ratification from every single quarter that it needs ratification from. Well, unless it's put in front of you and that's it, signed, sealed, and delivered, don't make the mistake of accepting anything. For years, we have accepted too much, and for what? For too little, let's just say. So let's move on for a second or two, and let's try to get something up. Now, what I'm going to do is that, and this is just whilst I look for something, I want to look for something that I can actually read over. And the reason why that I'm doing this is so that I can get something up on my screen here that I don't have. So just bear with me for a second. And I'm going to play something very, very small in nature. And it's a short 2-minute video from myself talking to Ben Habib. And I have to say that Ben Habib had written a great piece in the newsletter today. We'll publish it here at Restore UK whenever we finish this screen. And I have to say that it seems as if at least one person is still fighting for the right reasons, hasn't went into persuasion mode, trying to persuade unionists to accept a permanent border in the North Channel. And I'm going to show you the smoke and mirrors by which that they're trying to persuade you, I, and everyone else with in a few moments. So 2 minutes of a video, and by that time I should have what I need on our screen to be able to read through.
Well, I mean, John, you make an absolutely pertinent point, and it's very interesting. The first time, it was you, actually, first time that really woke me up to this. When I remember in Lagan Valley, when I was doing one of the rallies, you asked the bench, Jim Allister, Robbie Butler, Jeffrey Donaldson, Kate Hoey, and me. You asked each of us whether we'd support the Belfast Agreement, and frankly, I was taken aback by your question because I was there fighting the protocol. I wasn't there fighting the Belfast Agreement, and I thought to myself, is John biting off more than we can chew? Because, yeah, I agree, the Belfast Agreement was taking defeat out of the jaws of victory, but is this now the time for the fight? And I've realized, actually, John, and it is largely down to you waking me up with that question. And then Jamie Bryson went on to say a few things that really resonated with me, that actually the Belfast Agreement, it may not be the foundation of the problem. I think the foundation of the problem may even go further back than that, like the common travel area, the right for Irish citizens to vote in Northern Ireland and so on. There may be more fundamental foundations going even further back. But the Belfast Agreement is certainly a very, very big step towards the appeasement of nationalists, the appeasement of terrorists, and turning... Again, Westminster turning its back on its obligations to British citizens in Northern Ireland. And if our government can't get behind the Belfast Agreement to make it work for unionism, if our government actually tinkers with the Northern Ireland Act 1998 to foist upon unionists in Northern Ireland the protocol which is so obviously against the union, then I think the Belfast Agreement cannot be trusted. It cannot be relied on. And if that's where the government wishes to take events, if that's what it wants to put in unionism's face, then unionism must stand up to the government and say, we're not going to abide by this agreement, because the government of the United Kingdom itself isn't abiding by it. And you know, I think you're absolutely right in making that argument.
So I think I've got what I need to be able to put onto the screen and to read, and for pure documentation purpose, so that we can look at the areas that we see within is what is written here. Now, again, I'm saying here that this has been written in conjunction with the DUP and from information that Jamie Bryson is getting from the DUP, and this is the sales pitch for the DUP's claim down position. Remember, the protocol had to go. The democratic right of the people has to be respected, but the democratic right of the people isn't being respected if there's a border that is in Larne, Belfast, and Warrenpoint, and nor has the protocol went anywhere, as you would have heard Liz Truss actually saying. So bear with me. So here we go. We are, sorry, I forgot to put that in my screen so that everybody can see it. Just bear with me for a second. And share screen. Okay. So here we go. What I can do is that I will do this first, which makes this bigger. And then what we can do is that I can enhance this as we go. So I'm going to start reading here from what it is that I write. So this is called the inside story of the battle over the protocol bill. And it's the inside story of the battle of the protocol bill. Now let's see, can we get a title? I was sent this today, by the way. Well, it's by Jamie Bryson. Okay. So the protocol bill was initially to be laid before Parliament for the first reading. Okay, so on the 6th of June. We were all expecting it on Monday. However, two events happened, and we'll cut to the chase here, is that Boris Johnson, there was a push against Boris Johnson, and we all know, if we've been watching the news, that there was a vote of no confidence against Boris Johnson, and he actually won the vote. So again, Brexiteers, MPs and unions have been engaged with technical drafting teams over the last 2 weeks, in the week prior to the 6th. Some issues had arisen in regards to the shape of the bill, and this required further drafting work. So there we go. What we're hearing is that some unionists, for a couple of weeks even before that it was due, they were engaged in drafting this bill, including members of the DUP. Now, this is very, very key, that we have to remember that the DUP have their fingerprints all over what is about to happen, or what we suspect is about to happen. So again, we'll enhance this, if you bear with me for a second, and I'm going to go back to reading what it is. So these talks had largely been with the Foreign Office, with the NIO only having limited involvement. On Tuesday the 7th, the bill was finalised. However, Brexiteer MPs identified some technical issues with the wording of provisions relating to VAT and minor issues around the exact wording to exclude the supremacy of the European Court of Justice. Now, again, I'm going to read over that again, and I'm going to give you a bit of commentary. But the VAT, right, so there was problems. So here we go again. However, Brexiteer MPs identified some technical issues with the wording of provisions relating to VAT and minor issues around the exact wording to exclude the supremacy of the European Court of Justice. So what it was that we were being promised by Liz Truss is that we were being promised that, I'm saying promised, that wasn't really a promise that we wanted to accept, but Liz Truss was saying that, that there's going to be green and red channels traveling back and forward. So we went and we got some legal opinion. We fed it through to Ian Paisley Jr. And subsequently, Jim Allister produced a legal opinion. We also we fed that through to Ian Paisley Jr. And what we were identifying was that there was a border in the North Channel, the green and red channels that were there. And as Liz Truss's own words, it says that the British government would do the enforcement on the green channel, and Poots had already offered prior to that in the Nolan show, where he said that he would do the checks at Larne, Belfast. He didn't say that. He says in Belfast or wherever you like in Northern Ireland. So that was the DUP agreeing to do the EU's customs checks here in Northern Ireland, symbolically, effectively, and in a way that is absolute. He was bringing that border from where it is in the between Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland, and he was allowing that EU border. Poots was suggesting this for, on behalf of the DUP, that he was happy for the border to be moved between us and England and Scotland and Wales. That's what he was saying. And he said that without reservation. So again, let's just get back here. Let's get back to this. And right, here we go. So these talks had largely been, right, okay, back down again. The VAT issue is related to whether the Treasury would simply be empowered to set the VAT in NI the same as the rest of the UK, or take specific steps, e.g. They may, or whether they would be required in particular circumstances to do so. So again, what our problem was with it back then, and the legal advice was from Jim Allister, the meat on the bones of the legal advice was that, you see, for a border to be in the North Channel, for a border to be between us and the rest of the United Kingdom, for checks to be in green lanes and in red lanes, that meant that we were subject to, if that border is there, that's only there for one reason, is that we are subject to the EU single market rules, to which Jim Allister had said that there would be 300 plus checks, that we will still be subject to the VAT regime, and we would still be subjected to, any laws that the EU wanted to create in the near future. So we believe that this at least was being dealt with under these circumstances. So we're not saying that everything is absolutely bad here, but the test that we have is that if a border remains in the North Channel between us, England, Scotland and Wales, then that is not acceptable, cannot be acceptable, should not be acceptable to anyone that calls themselves a British Unionist and anyone that wants to see the continuation of the United Kingdom. We're going to get into that for the reasons why very, very soon. So we're now reading on from what it is that Jamie Bryson has written for and on behalf of the DUP. Now, so it says that these last minute negotiations and problems led to further discussions and technical talks at around 2:30 p.m, a finalised position which could command the support of Brexiteer and DUP MPs. Now, remember this, I'm just going to do this here. So it could command the position that has been arrived at, it can command the support of Brexiteers and DUP MPs. Right, but it says here, but only as a starting point, on the understanding no solution would be complete under other regulations, but put the broad principles into practice. Now, let me try to explain this here, and I'll try to break this down in the layman's terms. So I'm going to read these two paragraphs, and then I'm going to give you an explanation of what this actually means. So these, right, there was last minute problems from the Brexiteers and the DUP in negotiations, and they said that these last minute problems led to further discussions and technical talks. At around 2:30 p.m, a finalised position which could command the support of Brexiteer and DUP MPs, but only as a starting point, on the understanding, now this is the important part, that no solution would be complete under the regulations, but the broad principles, or which put the broad principles into practice. Now, this required further drafting. However, this was not complete by 3:30. The deadline for timetabling the following day's business. A meeting of the Cabinet Subcommittee on the bill also had to take place to sign off the final tweaks. That meeting took place this afternoon, 8th of June, which was yesterday, and the bill has now cleared the Cabinet. So the bill has now cleared the Cabinet, and what we're being told, this bill, it wasn't ready for Thursday, and the next available time that this bill can be around is on Monday, right? So this is coming out on Monday. Now, again, this is important at the very top here, that it says here that the finalised position which could command the support of the Brexiteer and the DUP MPs, but it says, but it's only a starting point. Now, what that is really indicating is that no solution would be complete under the regulations. In other words, that they're going to make a deal here for the border to be transplanted into the Irish Sea, but they're saying that nothing can be taken as if that it is complete, as if it is full, and if it is final. Now we're going to get into that in a wee second whenever we read on down this here. So it says that in consequence, the bill could not be timetabled. Okay, so the next sitting after that would be, I've told you that, it's going to be a Monday. So in terms, now this is the very important part here. Sorry, I put the screen down by mistake. So let me get back to where I was here. So just excuse me for doing this. So in terms of the substance of the the bill will create a constitutional framework within the regulations will then be made to give effect to arrangements replacing the protocol. So it says the terms in terms of substance, the bill will create a constitutional framework within which regulations will then be made to give effect to arrangements replacing the protocol. So what are they going to do? Is the protocol going in its complete, in its utter? Then it goes on to say that a number of key elements of the protocol will be expressly disapplied. Now, there is a contradiction, because we're being told in one paragraph here that in terms of the substance, the bill will create a constitutional framework which within which regulations will then be made to give effect to arrangements replacing the protocol. It says replacing the protocol, but then it says a number of key elements of the protocol will be expressly disapplied by the bill. So all we are getting is a number of key elements of the protocol will be expressly disapplied by the bill. The ministers then empowered to replace them by regulations. However, crucially, such regulation must be within the constitutional framework being set in stone by the bill. So what you're being promised here, I'm going to read this again, and I'm going to come back and we're going to put it into large screen for a moment or two. But you're being promised that there is going to be a bill which is actually just changing key elements of the protocol. It says they will be expressly disapplied by the bill, with ministers then empowered to replace them by regulations. However, crucially, such regulations must be within the constitutional framework being set out in stone by the bill. So now let's come back and let's now pop me up onto the screen here for an analysis of what it is that's being said here. So there are elements within the protocol which are going to be disapplied by the bill. Now, I can nearly tell you what those elements are. That they're saying that they're reinstating the Act of the Union. However, whilst that there is a border in that North Channel, that is nonsense. That is absolutely smoke and mirrors and fabrication. That's what that is. So they're saying that they're going to disapply key elements. They're going to say that they're going to disapply the European courts over having a say over Northern Ireland. That's what they say that they're going to do. Now, here's the thing. This is really what the changes that has been sought actually amounts to. It amounts to that they are saying that there's going to be access from England, Scotland and Wales to Northern Ireland for the sake of goods, but those goods having to be going down a green channel with trusted trader scheme, which means to say that a trusted trader scheme is that they'll make their declarations and they will be trusted that the goods that are coming are destined for Northern Ireland. And then that what Liz Truss had said is that she had said that the British government will enforce checks. They would do the enforcement on the Green Channel, which means to say that there's still going to be enforcement, which constitutes a border. And there'll be a red channel for EU goods, and Boots is actually offered to check the goods in the red channel, which again constitutes a border. So in one hand, let's get back to this again. They are saying that a number of key elements of the protocol will be expressly disapplied by the bill. And here's the bit that I have to say that I will never, ever, ever be sucked in by this. So what they're promising is that they're going to be giving ministers the power. I'm talking about ministers within Westminster power to do certain things on the promise of the never, never, ever, ever, ever. Who remembers Boris Johnson saying at the DUP conference? In fact, let's remind people of what Boris Johnson said at the DUP conference. Now, here we go. And the DUP are about to try to swindle you, to bluff you, to get you to accept something on the promise of the never, never. And Jamie Bryson is acting as chief persuader for this DUP's position because he wrote this. And why isn't he questioning anything that is coming out of that charlatan Jeffrey Donaldson's mouth? Jeffrey Donaldson has form for saying one thing and doing another. Jeffrey Donaldson has absolute form for if you bring him anything, nothing ever happens. Nothing happens at all. That Jeffrey Donaldson has his own agenda, and I believe that he's pushing forward with other people's agenda, and that agenda doesn't suit Northern Ireland's constitutional place within the United Kingdom. And I am making that claim. And if Jeffrey Donaldson wants to come here under Restore, and I will lay out bare and lay out, I believe, in a conclusive way as to why Jeffrey Donaldson cannot be trusted and never should be trusted with anything, let alone the constitutional position of Northern Ireland. So I don't know why Jamie Bryson is actually persuading for this, but he actually is, and we're reading it in front of our very own eyes. So it's Boris Johnson. So we're going to trust Boris Johnson's ministers to have powers in which that they may or may not ever enact at any point in the future. That is that in a nutshell. And we're going to actually draw a comparison with something so that you understand how that this works. So in the Belfast Agreement, in the Good Friday Agreement, there is there's a piece in that Belfast Agreement in where that if the Secretary of State for Northern Ireland sees the circumstances in where that a border poll should be called, well, he can call that border poll at any time that he wants. Should he believe that there's likely to be a greater number of people wanting to become part of this so-called United Ireland and what has now become a new Ireland. So you can see how this works, is that nationalists and Republicans and everybody is calling for a border poll and even asking them to define the circumstances under which that border poll, that they could meet the criteria to fit with that border poll. But look, that just isn't done. That is just ignored. So that also, although that it will be in legislation, that the people that have the powers, but will they ever enact those powers? Absolutely not. You see, this could be dragged on and dragged on and dragged on forever and ever and ever and ever. And here's another thing. This very charlatan that we're about to show you, Boris Johnson, who had said this, let's remind you what he said.
And we will be damaging the fabric of the Union with regulatory checks and even customs controls between Great Britain and Northern Ireland, on top of those extra regulatory checks down the Irish Sea that are already envisaged in the withdrawal agreement. Now, I have to tell you, no British Conservative government could or should sign up to any such arrangement. And so
I'll just pause for a moment. That, no British Prime Minister or government could ever sign up to a border in the Irish Sea, the North Channel, a border between England, Scotland and Wales and Northern Ireland. And yet you and I and everyone else sees that they actually did sign up to that. And this is smoke and mirrors. This is spin, swindle and fudge. And how that it is that Jamie Bryson doesn't understand that you cannot trust these people, and yet he is acting as chief persuader for the DUP's climb down position. Let's read on. Let's read on what Jamie Bryson is actually talking about. So again, we're going to get back to a number of key elements of the protocol will be expressly disapplied. Only a number of the key elements, not the protocol. What happened to the protocol must go. What happened to, now remember, I showed you, if you scroll back just a few paragraphs, that the DUP have agreed this, that the Brexit ministers and the DUP have actually agreed this, that only a few, here's it again, read again, a number of key elements of the protocol will be expressly disapplied by the bill, with ministers then empowered to replace them by regulations. So will they ever be, will the ministers ever get to the point where they would replace them with regulations? That is the key question. Is this Is this the the deal that has been done that the DUP are going to try to sell? In fact, they're trying to sell it through Jamie Bryson there. Unless Jamie Bryson has written this himself, and under which that we need to ask Jamie Bryson questions too. Is he doing this on his own bat? Is he being instructed by the DUP? He seems to know times, dates, everything about it. We're too long in the tooth to understand that this is being fed to Jamie Bryson by someone, possibly Edwin Poots and Ian Paisley Jr., possibly, maybe even Jeffrey Donaldson, who knows? But this is what's happening. And Jamie, I don't know what has happened to you. If you are on the promise of nothing, expecting people to give the nod, using your terminology, to say to Jeffrey Donaldson, well, okay, Jeffrey, off you go, back into Stormont, off you go, permit a speaker, and, well, lock us into the position. Now, this is really, really very important when I say this, but lock us all into the position in where that there's a vote in the Assembly for or against the protocol in what is it, a year and a half's time? And we, under this current mandate within that Assembly, if that Assembly replaces a referendum even to the people won't have their say. The Assembly will take a vote. The Pan-Nationalist Front, including the Mugbeedies of this world, they will join forces and they will vote the protocol to remain forever and a day. Is this what this is all about? Is this about prolonging the agony? Is this about extending things? Is this about kicking the can down the road to this vote happens in the Northern Ireland Assembly? And we are voted to have to remain in that protocol without our agreement. We've only one chance at getting this right. Our leaders have only one chance at getting this right. This is the main front line of the battle to save the United Kingdom. Northern Ireland is that battlefront. And, our leaders, our generals, and their persuaders are literally, they are getting things drastically and wholly, absolutely wrong. And if you say that I'm wrong, well, you come on to Restore UK. The channel's open any day next week for anyone to come on here on the other side of this argument, to come on and to explain to British Unionists that Restore UK are scaremongering, that we are getting it wrong, that our legal opinion and our legal advice that we've got, the same legal advice, I may add, that has taken the judicial review, that has got right through to the appeal court and has now been pushed on to the Supreme Court. It is the same legal advice from day one that has carried that case right through. And that legal opinion still stands today, in that if there is a border in the North Channel, that constitutes separation between Northern Ireland, England, Scotland and Wales. That constitutes divergence. And put it like this, if that there is, and that's what it says in the legal opinion, if no one in England, Scotland or Wales has to do the same as Northern Ireland, i.e. checks and goods in a green and a red channel, well, that, my friends, game, set and match is that if they are saying that one of these areas that they're going to be dealing with expressly within these, let me read it again to get the words that was used. So a number of key elements of the protocol will be expressly disapplied. Is the Act of Union being expressly disapplied? There's a big question, because if a border remains in the North Channel, that's divergence. That isn't unfettered access, that is checks and goods. What did you call this screen? If it looks like a border, if it has checks on goods like a border, is it a border? Answer that into the live chat. You answer that for yourselves. So let's again just go down through what Jamie Bryson is saying. In fact, I think that you've seen enough here. I think that you have seen enough, because there's the key thing. A number of key elements of the protocol will be expressly disapplied by the bill, with ministers then empowered to replace them by regulations. However, crucially, such regulations must be within the constitutional framework being set in stone. So it says a number of key elements is the words that I'm looking at. A number of key elements of the protocol. What happened to the protocol must go. What happened to the democratic rights of the people must be respected. And I'm going to read again just to show you the inconsistency of what's written here. In terms of the substance, the bill will create a constitutional framework within the regulations will then be made to give effect to the arrangements replacing the protocol. Now, I don't see the protocol being replaced in the next. It says a number of key elements of the protocol will be expressly disapplied. What it boils down to, now, in a nutshell, all of this doesn't mean a thing. You know, there's a 7-point plan by the DUP. There is several bullet points by their chief persuader, Jamie Bryson, because Jamie Bryson is chiefly persuading for the DUP claim down position. And look, again, I am saying this not without foundation. I am saying this because that I can show you again, before that we go, how that it was that Jeffrey Donaldson's language had moved from the protocol must go, the democratic rights of the people of Northern Ireland must be respected. And Jeffrey Donaldson moved into the Hall of Stormont, where he says that we need to deal with the issues around the protocol. Then he got to the Parliament when Liz Truss says this is not about scrapping the protocol, and Jeffrey Donaldson welcomed what Liz Truss had to say. Now, do you remember a few weeks ago, we spent 4 days and 4 nights picking through every single word that everyone has said, putting together the jigsaw, and we told you then that we weren't wrong. And now we told you that this was a DUP claim down position, and now we see this playing out in exactly the way that we led that pathway that was being put together for and on behalf of the DUP. Now, we've seen it before. You see, this is how that it is so easy to see. You cannot trust those people. You couldn't trust those people if your place in the United Kingdom depended on it. That's why I don't trust them. That's why I will never trust them. And when I see them moving in their language, and then I see a persuader persuading on behalf of them, I have serious questions with reference to that man. Who is that man working for? Are you, Jamie Bryson, are you working for the DUP? Are you on the promise of something from the DUP? Is this about elevating you and forgetting about our place in the United Kingdom? Are you willing to forego the lifting of the border in between Northern Ireland and Southern Ireland and permanently placing it in Larne, in Belfast, and in Warringpoint? Are you the person that's going to have that? You see, the DUP are using you. If you are being fed that information for the DUP, they are using you. They are using you to sell their claim down position. Or are you doing this willingly? There is questions for you. This is about our future. This is about the country that we love. This is the only chance that we have to get this right, and you're persuading to get this wrong. Let's move on. Let's move on. So, people, there we go. There we go. There's what Jamie Bryson is persuading for. We have seen the DUP on numerous occasions. You know, we have seen them swindle the people of Northern Ireland. We have seen them promising the earth, the moon, and the stars before an election. We seen Jeffrey Donaldson, you know, and we've got cute to this. Well, what we have did is that we have absolutely, you know, we have got every word that these people are saying. You know, we have put the things onto hard drives, right? Hard drives. We have passed them to different people in case that our hard drives go missing, so that we have them for the future, so that we can understand who said what and when. This can't be covered up. This should never be covered up. What you're seeing is the biggest swindle, the biggest political swindle that has ever taken place in Northern Ireland. And it has constitutional ramifications for Northern Ireland's place within the United Kingdom and for the entire United Kingdom. And of utmost importance is this, that once this is settled, once this is ratified, and according to Jamie Bryson, what he was writing there, it is ratified, it has been accepted by the DUP. And according to the man that I'm sent legal opinion to in the DUP today, well, he respectfully said, well, you know, do you trust that legal opinion? That's what he said to me, because we've got other illegal opinions. So I could tell by his very words, that what he was doing was he was saying that we are moving on with this. And, we've seen this before. We've seen this again, and I'm going to recap. We've seen this at New Decade, New Deal, whenever that we had spent long and hard hours, putting together even a team which incorporated a professor of the Gaelic language to argue against that she should never be forcing a language, a weaponized language, into the position whereby it can be used against a community, causing community tensions. And we had a Gaelic professor on our side, and he was arguing on our side for that. And, we made several representations to the DUP over what it was that we had learned. But the DUP didn't listen, and they went on and they done what they had to do anyway in their, I don't know, are they capos? KAPO? So there we go. We've got to the end of what it is that we need to do. We've got to the point where we needed to expose this again, yet again. I didn't think that it was going to be back today. Yeah, Isabel, absolutely. What you need to do, Isabel, is that we need to ask that man on here. We need to ask him, and so that we can pick through what he's saying, so that we can show the concerns that we have, so that we can ask, is he okay with a border in the North Channel? Isabel, we'll leave that to you. We'll leave that to other people on here to ask him to come on here and to explain why that it is that he's persuading for and on behalf of the DUP, whenever the DUP, the minute that they got our vote, what they did was they stood in that great hall of Stormont and they says, from the protocol has to go, it's the issues around the protocol must be dealt with. That's what he said. That's what he said. So let's now go to Jeffrey Donaldson, and let's remember that what you're now seeing, people, what you're now seeing is Jeffrey Donaldson having went full circle, and he's now back to the position where he was just after the protocol had been implemented. Now, just remember one thing, that on December of 2000, and let me get this right, 20, the protocol came into being 2021, early 2021. On December, prior to that, January, well, Arnie Foster sat at a meeting with Simon Coveney and Michelle O'Neill, working out how that it was that they were going to be implementing this very same constitutional changing protocol, which separated us from the United Kingdom, that separated us from England, Scotland, and Wales, and Northern Ireland. And let's remember one other thing, and you're hearing this day in, day out. You're seeing this in British government documentation, is that they're now calling themselves GB, Great Britain, and they're now referring to us as Northern Ireland. So there will be checks on goods coming from GB to Northern Ireland in the Green Channel, and the British government will enforce those checks under the what is on offer right now. Let's hear Jeffrey Donaldson before we close, and we are closing.
Well, in the end, customs checks doesn't mean that you change the constitutional status of a part of the United Kingdom. That's not going to happen. Already we're seeing the political parties and business leaders coming together to see how we actually exploit the opportunities that may arise from this situation, not only to ensure we have full access to the UK market, but we've also got access to the EU market.
So you heard it there, and that was just after the protocol came into being. That because there's a border in the Irish Sea, the North Channel, because that there's checks on goods, effectively customs checks on goods that is coming into the EU single market. And because there's the checks on goods doesn't mean to say that the constitutional position of Northern Ireland has changed. That's me paraphrasing. What is the difference between Mug Doug Beattie and Jeffrey Donaldson? What is the difference? Because Mug Beattie said that he's a constitutional unionist. He's not an economic unionist. What was it Jeffrey Donaldson just admitted to there? Is that he said that because you've got customs checks on goods coming to Northern Ireland, I'm adding a bit of the customs in because it is a customs border. But because you've got checks coming to Northern Ireland, doesn't mean to say that there's constitutional change. Then he goes on to say, we need to exploit the benefits within the protocol. Finishing and closing, and we will close by reading the legal advice that we got again before we finish. That finishing, I'm going to say this. I have a video clip of Jeffrey Donaldson saying that when you're making peace with your enemies, sometimes leadership means pushing the boundaries. Now, that's how he did it. Sometimes leadership means pushing the boundaries. Yeah, you're right, it does, because what Jeffrey Donaldson and the DUP hierarchy and their persuader in Jamie Bryson is doing is that they are persuading to push the boundaries from Killeen, from the border that exists between Northern Ireland and Southern Ireland. They're promoting that those boundaries should be pushed all the way back to Warrenpoint, Belfast, and in Larne, separating Northern Ireland from the rest of the United Kingdom. And that, my friends, can never, ever, ever be acceptable to anyone that calls themselves a unionist that lives in Northern Ireland. I rest my case. So we're going to play us out with a couple of things. I want to read, firstly, the legal opinion, just to put it fresh in every single person's minds yet again. And then what we're going to do is that we're going to move on. And we'll finish and we'll close the screen. So here we go, yet again, we're going to read it. So it is clear that even the British government's highest point is that a customs union between Britain and Northern Ireland will remain with customs checks required, albeit with self-declared checks. Such self-declared checks would still not be required for moving goods between Scotland and England and Wales. During the course of negotiations, this proposed change is likely to be diluted rather than strengthened. This and other proposals from the UK or EU do nothing to address the finding of Colston J at 62, must be a paragraph, and that there is an unequal footing as between the citizens of Great Britain and Northern Ireland under Article 6 of the Act of the Union, and does nothing to alter the appellant's position that the finding of Colston J, that there has been implied repeal of Article 6 of the Act of Union 1800. So again, we'll stop there. And essentially what that was saying is that whilst there was a border with checks in the North Channel, well, the Act of the Union, no matter what they say, it cannot be fully restored. That's number one. And number two, whilst there's a border in the North Channel with checks in green lanes and red lanes, well, that constitutes the lifting of the border from between Ireland, the Republic of Ireland and Northern Ireland, and that constitutes placing that border permanently on the Irish Sea. So we await the regulations. We await so that we can get legal people to look at them, so that we will pore over them ourselves, and so that we can ensure that these people and their persuaders don't walk over the memories and the graves of every single person that has stood up for this country in the history of Northern Ireland. You know, I've lost good friends. Many people has lost family members. And for what? For all of that to have been in vain, for their memories not to be remembered, for our leaders, our so-called leaders, to do a deal which would permanently separate Northern Ireland in terms of a border from England, Scotland, and in Wales. That for me, well, I could never agree to that. Could you? Let's play us out, people. Let's play us out. And I'm looking for a song, and I have to say that this is a song that I think that is very, very fitting for what it is that we've been speaking about this evening. So I'm going to play us out with this one song, and we're going to close the screen. So I want you to leave your messages on the live chat. I want to leave your thoughts in the live chat. I want you to give us a like, a love, and a share. And it is essential that this is shared. It's essential that as many people gets to see the likes of this as humanly possible. It really is essential that we do let people see this here. So I'm looking down my list here and I'm looking for a particular video. If you just bear with me for a second. It should be somewhere. Now, bear with me. I must have taken it off my screen. I'll tell you what, we'll be able to share it from onto the screen from here. Just bear with me for a second or two whilst I look for a video file. So right, here we go. So here we go. We've got it here. Or is that one thing? That's only. I'm looking for the video of. Bear with me. I have to go down through my list here to get this. This is worth the wait. This is worth the wait. So it is. Here, I'm going to play this here whilst I look on. I'm going to play this. This is worth listening to. But just listen to wee Jeffrey, how that he has to push the boundaries. The boundaries of Northern Ireland, in this case, he's pushing. So we'll play that. And we're going to look on for what we're looking for.
You know, the greatest challenge that we face is bringing our own people with us, making peace with your friends.
That's the song I was looking for. So what's this? Now, people, hope you enjoyed it. Share this out. Make sure you get as many people as possible. We will not get candidates.
Any man who is not with us is against us.
These people still out there.
When is a unionist
and,
not
you know,
a unionist? When he creates disunion.
listen to that.
We face is bringing our own people with us, making peace with your friends.
Any man who is not with us is against us. When is a unionist not a unionist? When he creates disunion.
Well, in the end, customs checks doesn't mean that you change the constitutional status of a part of the United Kingdom.
This is the most momentous election that we have ever had to face. We must elect those who would fight for the Union, not those who would oppose it.
Already we're seeing the political parties and business leaders coming together to see how we actually exploit the opportunities that may arise from this situation.
Any man who is not with us is against us.
And when it comes to peace building, sometimes leaders have to push the boundaries to see how we actually exploit the opportunities that may arise from this situation.
Any man who is not with us is against us.
The Northern Ireland Assembly is the place where every element of our society is represented. Such partnership is how we must move forward. And when it comes to peace building, sometimes leaders have to push the boundaries.
When is a unionist not a unionist? When he creates disunion.
The sheet of paper you were given didn't show you all these different regulations on them, so it didn't even mention how many regulations there were. And when I queried that, I asked one of the DUP spads because I knew it had something to do with it, and I was given this assurance that it was keeping us in line with the rest of the United Kingdom, and there was absolutely nothing to worry about.
And when it comes to peace building, sometimes leaders have to push the boundaries.
I trusted what I was told, and I made a mistake. And that's how it was sold to me, and I can only apologise.
The Northern Ireland Assembly is the place where every element of our society is represented. And when it comes to peace building, sometimes leaders have to push the boundaries. In August 2016, within weeks of the EU referendum, my party leader, Arlene Foster, penned a letter jointly with the then Deputy First Minister, Martin McGuinness. That letter was written to the UK Prime Minister, Theresa May. And it's worth quoting, I think, from this letter. This region is unique in that it is the only part of the UK which has a land border with an EU member state. There have been difficult issues relating to the border throughout our history and the peace process. We therefore appreciate your stated determination that the border will not become an impediment to the movement of people, goods and services.
Any man who is not with us is against us.
It was pragmatic and constructive. As then First Minister and Deputy First Minister, these two leaders were writing in the same spirit of mutual respect and common sense, which enabled my party and Sinn Féin to reach agreement at St Andrews and subsequently to establish a power-sharing government.
We must elect those who will fight for the Union, not those who would oppose it.
And therefore, making peace with your enemies is important, but it can only be successful if you make peace with your friends. Thank you.